It's the most magical time of the year, and I'm not talking about Christmas. I'm talking about the NFL season. So make sure you're ready with NFL Sunday Ticket and YouTube TV. Get the most live NFL games all in one place. Right now, you can save $85 when you bundle NFL Sunday Ticket with YouTube TV. Sign up today at youtubetv.com/Spotify. Device and content restrictions apply. Discount applied to first 4 months of YouTube TV, then $72.99 a month. Ends August 29th. Terms, restrictions, and embargoes apply. No refunds.
Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No, don't. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only have to do like 4 of these. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/save. Whenever you're ready.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
First thing is a lot of same-ass teaching. When I move you here, I'm moving you to do something very similar to what you did where you just left. We've identified guys, after we put our top 22 together, now we identify skill sets.
Alex Gray is the new defensive coordinator for John Carroll University, and he brings over 20 years of experience, including a successful stint at St. Thomas University in Florida, where his defenses led the Sun Conference in scoring, defense, and sacks. Coach Gray is known for his aggressive and versatile defensive strategies that leverage player strengths and keep offenses off balance. In this episode, Coach Gray shares his strategies for building depth. He discusses the top 22 player list for talent development and how he adapted this approach at St. Thomas. Coach Gray emphasizes athlete versatility, streamlined practice organization, and the need for coaching flexibility. Stay tuned for our Winning Edge takeaway following the episode.
At BlueNile.com, you can find endless ways to make your moments sparkle. From classic and timeless jewelry gifts to creating the custom engagement ring of her dreams, all at prices you won't find at a traditional jeweler. And right now, you can save up to 40% on fine jewelry and 25% on engagement ring settings during the Blue Nile Anniversary Sale, going on now. Go to BlueNile.com to shop the Blue Nile Anniversary Sale and save up to 40%. That's BlueNile.com.
Think you know the Brooks Ghost? Think again. Introducing the all-new, better-than-ever Ghost 16. Now with nitrogen-infused cushioning for lightweight, supreme softness that feels good every step, every street, every single day. So go ahead, take your daily joyride in the all-new nitrogen-infused Ghost 16. It'll turn your everyday miles into everyday endorphins. Let's run there. Head to brooksrunning.com to learn more.
On today's episode of Coaching Coordinator Podcast, The Season, we're talking with the defensive coordinator at John Carroll University about his process for building depth. So our guest today is Alex Gray from John Carroll. Alex, great to have you here, finally.
Hey, thanks for having me. I know we've been talking about doing this for a little while, so it's good to finally be on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's good to have you back home, too. I know you were out here in Northeast Ohio, and your career took you south to St. Thomas, and know all the guys down there, love the guys down there and the job they're doing, but you had the opportunity to come back north to John Carroll, so we're excited to have you back here as well.
And I'm excited to be back. My family's excited to be back. My family, my parents, my brothers, my nieces, my cousins, everybody else is excited as well, as am I, so. Hopefully
awesome.
We do some good stuff here at John Carroll.
I'm sure you guys will. Getting to know your coaching staff here over the last couple months, I think you guys are doing a great job. And that painful for me to say, you know, being a BW guy, but you guys do a great job over there. So
I appreciate that.
Would love to dig into this topic and hear first, I guess, about how it came about, right? This process of building your depth chart. And sometimes things happen out of necessity. We figure some things out, and that seems to be the background behind what you guys are doing here.
Absolutely. So this actually goes back when I first got into coaching. One of the first things we did, one of my first meetings in the fall, was we did a thing called the Top 22. So Coach Dennison, who's my mentor, all-time winningest coach at University of Akron, obviously all-time winningest coach at Walsh University, coached me for 5 years there as a redshirt and then 4 years, and then gave me my first job. He's kind of been the idol for me as far as coaching goes. And one of the things that we did early in my coaching career is we built a top 22. Now, his was the entire football team. We found out based off of everybody put their top 22 together, and we did a consensus. Every coach gave their number one. Every coach gave their number two, gave their number three, and there was a point system. So Coach Dennison actually used to do this to make sure that we had our best 22 guys on offense and defense. So I'll get into the story at St. Thomas from 2020, where we weren't doing that. My coaching career, we had not done that, but maybe one other time, which was 2017 at Wayne State, we did it once. But that wasn't something that was a focal point of what we did. So at St. Thomas, we had gone through our summer. We had a bunch of freshmen. As you know, that was a startup program in 2019. 2020 was the COVID season. So not only in that spring of 2020 did we lose after 7 practices, we got shut down, but we ended up losing a lot of COVID casualty kids who didn't come back to school, kids who may have left the team or didn't have finances or whatever the situation may be. So our roster flipped quite a bit from year 1 to year 2. No spring practice. We're working with another set of freshmen again. Dave Armstrong, the president of St. Thomas, actually called it year 1.5 instead of calling it year 2 going into that season, which was actually kind of funny. So you go through camp, which was a weird camp because you couldn't have meetings in person. You couldn't have practices or walkthroughs after a certain point because of safety reasons. We were sending everybody home. We were meeting on Zoom, which who knows what the attention span was of those kids at that point. We got a bunch of freshmen and sophomores, right? So we played our first 2 games. We had everybody in the positions we thought they fit, and we went into our game with our game plan, and we can talk X's and O's at another point, but what we thought fit what we were doing. And the first 2 games, I hate to admit this, but were historically bad. We gave up a lot of points and gave up a lot of yards. And it actually had us all kind of questioning some things in our defensive meeting room. So me being the ultimate historian of football, I go back into my notes. I have a bunch of binders that sit on the shelf in my office. I go back and I find the top 22. We get all the defensive coaches together, and we go about our process of developing what we call the top 22.
So I've done this before. We've been a part of it, and definitely heard the stories of Coach Dennison, Jim Meyer, having coached with him and being part of the BW staff. And we would go through that exercise too. I do think it's very useful. I think you have to look at it differently, right? Because in putting together the top 22, you're not going by position. You're actually just going like, who is the number 1 athlete on this team, right? Who are
your best players? Yes.
Exactly. So you do that. I mean, you think of Mount Union's, player formation plays. I mean, they start in the same place too, but it's not position by position. It is, let's find who our best 22 are. And then from there, you have to think about how you're placing them. So continue on. What's that next step in the process?
So the defense that we run is extremely versatile. Different fronts, different coverages. But the top 22 was just, let's find our best 22 guys. And now, once you put that list together, then you ended up with probably 5 outliers, guys who didn't necessarily fall in the top 22, but they got votes by multiple coaches, okay, by the end of this thing. So our defense being as multiple as it is, and the different fronts, the different coverages, the different pressures, all of those things, it allowed us to have a good group of 28 kids so that we could find a true 2-deep of 22 kids for every base defensive position. And then what it also allowed us to do is create personnel packages when we wanted to get in different looks, different coverages, different pressures, different things where maybe we wanted a defensive back going to pressure, or we wanted inside pressure, but our best blitzer was outside. Okay, how do we get that guy inside? Let's call it Bobcat. So now we come up with Bobcat personnel. We move an outside linebacker inside. Now he's blitzing on the inside blitzer. So what happens is you become so much more versatile when you decide and once you kind of identify those top pieces to be able to put them in positions to be successful.
So looking at that and looking at the versatility I guess, are there any adaptations to how you practice? Does it change how you think about individual, group, those kinds of things?
Absolutely. So I was asked this question by Coach Brian Polian in my interview when I interviewed at John Carroll, and he was asking me about the teaching process. So one of the things that we did at St. Thomas, where I think we found a decent amount of success over the last 3 years that we were together there, was we started everything macro. And when I say macro, that's the entire group. Here's how we're going to install this idea. Here's how we're going to install this front, this coverage, this pressure, whatever it is. And then we would go micro. In the micro, we broke off into our individual position meeting rooms, and we went right back through that same exact install that I talked about as the coordinator to the macro. We get on the field, we go back macro, we walked it, and then we went back micro when we got to all of those periods. What we did is we split the field in half. So whether it was pressures, whether it was run fits, whether it was 7-on-7, whatever it was, we did it half field or half line so that guys' keys and reads were simplified. They weren't seeing 11 hats. They were only seeing 4 hats in inside run, or they were only seeing 2 eligibles in 7-on-7. And so what that allowed us to do is it allowed us to practice. It may have taken a few more plays because you're going side 1, side 2. So you may not have gotten through 15 plays, but you got 8, 9 plays done, but true reps. And now you can move your outside guys 2 reps outside, 2 reps inside. Or you can move your corners 2 reps at corner, 2 reps at safety, safeties 2 reps at safety, 2 reps at outside backer, or whatever personnel substitution package. Hey, we got 2 freshmen coming off the bench. You guys are in for these 4 reps, but they're not seeing the whole field like they did in high school. They're now seeing half a field so that now they're just getting their eyes and trained in the right place.
This episode is brought to you by Experian. Are you paying for subscriptions you don't use but can't find the time or energy to cancel them? Experian could cancel unwanted subscriptions for you, saving you an average of $270 per year and plenty of time. Download the Experian app. Results will vary. Not all subscriptions are eligible. Savings are not guaranteed. Paid membership with connected payment account required.
In looking at the versatility, obviously guys moving around different places. So for you, game plan wise, as you're looking at this, how do you account for that? How do you make sure that, hey, I know I'm going to need this guy to maybe play a couple positions, but I don't want to overwhelm him to the point where I'm slowing him down. So how do you make sure that you're balancing that as well?
So first thing is a lot of same as teaching. When I move you here, I'm moving you to do something very similar to what you did where you just left. Okay. We've identified guys after we put our top 22 together. Now we identify skill sets. Every coach should know. I shouldn't say they all do know, but every coach should know the mental capabilities of the majority of their players. Again, we were working with first and second year players, but we had pretty much identified that through the course of camp, who could handle install, who could handle adjustments. So at that point now, if I'm moving you to do something completely different, you're a cerebral player who can handle that. If you're a freshman and every single time I put you in, I think you should be in the middle of the field playing cover 3, middle of the field. Then every single time I'm going to put you at this safety, it's because that safety is in the middle of the field. When you go to this safety in this package, you're going to the middle of the field. So it keeps it very simplified. We just put different pieces in to do the rest of the puzzle that goes along with whatever substitution package we're working with.
So I guess the last thing I have for you is looking at the game day application of this. You're developing your depth. You have guys who can play in multiple spots. You know, guys who are getting ready and maybe can do more than they have if you pigeonhole them in one spot. So what does that look like on game day? What does that look like in substitution patterns, amount of guys that you play, et cetera?
So I call it a trade secret, it's not. One of the things that we always did in Friday's practice, so at St. Thomas, we would go Sunday film, Monday off, Tuesday practice, Wednesday practice. Thursday was a little bit of a lighter practice, and we had like a fast Friday where it was no equipment, but we were kind of zipping through different things. So every single Friday, I would build a 15 to 20 play script. So it would have first, second, third down, P and 10, second down, third down, and some of the third and longs or some of the second and longs, or if we got into a heavy situation. some of the second and shorts, third and shorts, and we wanted to bring in heavy. Every single thing was scripted so that when we went on Friday, we were going through those substitution packages after we had already practiced them all week in different periods during practice as we're seeing play. So Tuesday, we're seeing base plays. Wednesday, we're seeing whatever third down plays, first down plays, whatever it is. Thursday, we're kind of putting the whole puzzle together. And then Friday is, hey, here's mock game. Everybody on high alert. Every single substitution person is with our main substitution coach that's on the sideline. Hey, we got Bobcat personnel in. We got nickel personnel in. We got dime personnel in. We got whatever personnel we're going to put in that day. Heavy, heavy, heavy. We all run in so that everybody's on the same page.
So the other aspect of this always is the coach, right? And obviously there's some workload on the coaches here, the way they have to think about things. What's the effect on coaches for the system you've developed?
So one of the beauties of this system, and one of the beauties of one of my experience, which was me being the defensive coordinator at the prep school at Army West Point. I was defensive coordinator there, and I got to work with Andy Wolfram, who was our head coach down at the prep. But there were times that I got to go up to the Army, the actual college team, and hang out with some of those defensive coaches. And Coach Bateman was the defensive coordinator at the time, and they used to do a lot of subbing. And one of the questions that I asked him, I said, hey, if you have an outside linebacker who practices defensive end, does he actually go with the defensive line coach and practice that? He said, absolutely not. He said, every coach is responsible for getting every single one of their players prepared to play whatever position it is they have to play. So now what does that do for your coaching staff? So now as a secondary coach, and down at St. Thomas, I had a young secondary coach, Steve Everson, who done a great job. But one of the things that he had to do is he had to get a corner prepared to play safety. And then he had to get a safety prepared to play outside linebacker. So now he can't just know what the secondary does. He's got to know what the linebackers are doing. If we had an outside linebacker, we had to move inside because we had an outside linebackers coach, Marquise Smith, and then our inside linebackers coach was me at the time. So we had to be interchangeable parts. He had to be able to teach his outside linebacker what he had to do when he came inside. And all of those things working together, they develop not just young coaches, but even old coaches like myself, having to understand how to get somebody to understand two positions. I have to be able to communicate and work on my communication patterns, work on understanding individuals' learning style to be able to get them to learn those things. And it develops coaches, young coaches for sure, but even old coaches aren't too old to learn those new tricks.
I love it. I would love to be old like you, Alex. I definitely got some years on you, but I love the ideas you shared here. A lot to take away in a short period, but I think something that's useful, especially as we're looking at things in the season, depth, building depth, getting your best on the field, always an important thing. So I appreciate your time, and certainly best of luck to you and the Blue Streaks, at least 9 of the weeks this year in 2024.
I really appreciate it. This was awesome, and anytime we want to do it again, we can do it.
Here's our winning edge takeaway for this episode. Coach Gray talked a lot about developing depth, and I love his idea of a top 22 list. We always have to have in mind who our best players are and figure out ways to get them on the field. Coach shared an approach that gives versatility and adaptability by figuring out who those players are and then what their skill sets are so that you can fit them into different scenarios, multiple positions, and different roles. I think this is a great exercise to do now in camp if you haven't done it already, even if you're into the season. Having this constantly defined as who's our best 22 because things change over the course of a season. Be sure to check out our partners Vertical Raise for your fundraising needs, modern football technology for analytics and in-game decision-making, and signature championship rings when you win the championship this year. Links and information to all of our partners can be found in the description and on coachingcoordinator.com in our 10% toolkit. Follow us on X at Coach K. Grabowski.